This is why I think Anatomy of a Murder is the best courtroom drama ever made. First, the case. Before the movie begins, Lieutenant Frederick Mannion shot and killed innkeeper Barney Quill. 1 hour after Mannion's wife, Laura, arrives home bruised, saying Quill raped and beat her in the woods. The district attorney is going to prosecute Mannion for first-degree murder, so Mannion hires Paul Beegler to defend him. Second, the complications. In a normal courtroom drama, you'd be encouraged to root for the protagonist's client to win, for some kind of justice to prevail. But director Otto Preminger does everything he can to remove justice from the equation. The case itself is ambiguous. Clearly, it was a revenge killing, but revenge is no justification for murder. Will the jury or the audience be sympathetic enough to go along with a claim of temporary insanity?
I have the unwritten law on my side. The unwritten law is a myth, Lieutenant.
Preminger challenges that sympathy by making Mannion generally unlikable, even cruel. The rape itself is never shown. The murder victim and alleged rapist is never introduced. And Preminger adds doubt by making Laura flirty and clearly unhappy in her marriage. What's more, it's made very obvious that Beegler is not interested in the case for its moral content, but for the legal challenge that it represents. That keeps us from identifying too strongly with the great Jimmy Stewart.
What you need is a legal peg so that the jury can hang up their sympathy in your behalf. What's your legal excuse, Lieutenant?
So what's the payoff of all this work, of designing a case that's messy, a defendant who's unsympathetic, a lawyer who's in it only for the challenge? What happens when justice is removed? What are you left with?
Well, if you're not telling me to cop out, what are you telling me to do?
I'm not telling you to do anything. I just want you to understand the letter of the law.
That's it. The law. That's what makes Anatomy of a Murder so special and unique. It's a movie carefully designed to make the law visible. And what does the law look like? Well, it looks a lot like narrative.
What the defense is trying to do is introduce some sensational material for the purposes of obscuring the real issues.
Your Honor, how can the jury accurately estimate the testimony being given here unless they first know the reason behind this whole trial?
Each lawyer is trying to carve out a story from the evidence. The prosecution wants the jury to see the murder. The defense wants the jury to see the rape. The prosecution wants the audience to see the act. The defense wants the audience to see the motive. And in their efforts to place each fact in their desired context, the importance of words becomes more and more and more apparent.
Mr. Paquette, the attorney for the people asked you if Miss Mannion was tight, and you said that she was high. Now, speaking as a bartender, what's the distinction between the two?
I don't think I understand.
Well, I mean, when we say a person's tight, we usually mean that they're a little stupid with a drink. Isn't that so?
I guess that's about it, yes.
And if they're high, they're gay and enjoying themselves.
Yes.
In other words, Miss Mannion was happy. Well, now, is there anything wrong with being happy in Thunder Bay Inn?
No.
The prosecution attempts to paint a picture of Laura Mannion as promiscuous, but Beegler drills down into the vocabulary to show that suggestion from a different linguistic point of view.
What would you call a man with an insatiable penchant for women?
Earlier in the trial, Beegler made the same witness describe Barney Quill by cycling through synonyms until he reached the word
wolf.
Well, sure, I heard that. It just slipped my mind.
Once Mrs. Mannion's panties become relevant to the trial, the judge asks the lawyers if they know an alternate term because of the juvenile effect that word is having on the courtroom.
There isn't anything comic about a pair of panties which figure in the violent death of one man and the possible incarceration of another.
Watching from this unique perspective, this movie about a murder trial transforms into a granular study about the construction of stories, how language itself, how every word is loaded with history. And when you choose a word, you're choosing its history too, all the stories that go with it. Preminger deliberately guides us into this place, understanding, I think, that the courtroom is a zone where all these mechanics of narrative play out, and that if you could just remove that sense of justice, those mechanics would become clear in a singular way.
Now listen, this is a cross-examination murder case. It's not a high school debate. What are you and Dancer trying to do, railroad this soldier into the clink?
Anatomy of a Murder zooms in to show how story is latent in language, intonation, and gesture, and it zooms out to show how story is embedded in and a fundamental part of the practice of law. It makes sense that the thing which essentially locks in the victory for Beagler isn't some new piece of evidence, but a moment in which his opponent's story is revealed to be unworkable.
Miss Pallant, were you Barney Quill's mistress?
No, I was not.
You know it's common knowledge in Thunder Bay you were living with Quill?
It's not true. Barney Quill was...
Was what, Miss Pallant? Barney Quill was what, Miss Pallant?
Barney Quill was my father.
When the verdict is read, there's no close-up on the defendant, who is found innocent even though he killed someone, or on his wife, who may or may not have wanted him to be put away. And this is not that kind of movie. There are plenty out there like that, and some of them are fantastic. But Otto Preminger's Anatomy of a Murder is the purest kind of courtroom drama, because its focus is actually the drama of a courtroom.
How can a jury disregard what it's already heard?
You do solemnly swear the testimony you shall give in this cause.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. This is definitely in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, and Jimmy Stewart is my favorite actor ever, so I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. This episode was brought to you by Squarespace. If you want to make a website and you want it to be a really easy process, Squarespace has some beautiful award-winning designer templates to choose from that makes that process so simple. It's got 24-hour customer service, no upgrades, nothing to install, no patches ever, and picking your domain name is super easy too. You can start your free trial at squarespace.com, and if you use the offer code NERDWRITER, you can support this channel and get 10% off your first purchase. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time.